How's it going, folks? Welcome to the video. This is episode 2 of 4 on my college experience. Let's just get into it. If you haven't seen episode 1, I highly recommend you do. It was quite fun to make, even though I did waffle a bit more than I intended to. You can find that by following the link in the description down below. A brief summary, however, is I moved away from home for the first time, fell in love with a woman who was 7 years older than me from Mexico, who moved away halfway through my first semester. I then developed some anxiety problems, ate nothing but tuna fish, rice and sweet corn for 5 months, and started mixed martial arts when I went home for the summer. It now feels like I could have made the first video only 19 seconds long, but I like to ramble. You'll see later. So, second year marked kind of the start of me falling out of love with college, where I really started to disengage with college. Mostly that was to do with like accommodation problems, as I'll detail later, but also it had to do with mixed martial arts and kind of my obsession with it, which became kind of unhealthy. As I mentioned in my last video, I spent the entire summer doing mixed martial arts and weightlifting and stuff like that. I was really in love with it. It very quickly became a pretty large part of my identity, and the last thing I wanted to do when I went back to college was give it up. So before I left Wexford, I made sure to find a good mixed martial arts gym pretty close to college so I could keep up my new hobby. I happened to find one in my grandparents' hometown, not the grandparents that I stayed with my first semester of college, though they actually share a town, but different grandparents, and I moved in with them for my first semester, both to again save money and also to be very, very close to this gym, which is about 10 minutes away from their home by foot. And so, because I was frankly obsessed, training was still my life when I was in that first semester of college. I went like 4 times a week. I would literally run home from college, off the bus from college. I would cook dinner like noodles, sausages, and then like some kind of quick, easy to boil vegetable. Then I would walk the 10 or 15 minutes to training, and I would stay there for 2, sometimes 3 hours a night. I would come home, I would take a cold shower and nurse my bruises, and then I would do the same thing over and over and over again. This was basically fine, except over the summer I had developed kind of an obsession with my weight and controlling my weight a little bit. I was really obsessed with building lean muscle mass, so I was eating like lots and lots of chicken breast, lots of stuff like that, and almost no sugar. I really completely cut sugar out of my diet, which became a really big problem because I got really run down throughout the course of this entire year. But mostly my first semester was totally fine. College was kind of uneventful. I just went there. I just turned up to my classes. I did everything I had to do, and then I went home to do mixed martial arts because that was way more important to me. I remember, like, you know, night upon night just going and training until like the only thing that I could taste in my mouth was dried blood. And like I was getting my first black eyes ever. Actually, my first black eye story is kind of funny. I got kneed in the face by this dude who was scary strong. He's about my height, but he's really like stocky and just super strong. He kneed me like right here, and he crushed like all the nerves in my skin from like here to around here, and I could not feel anything on this part of my face for like 10 days. It was so weird. When I would like step outside and the wind would cool my face, it would cool everywhere except for here, which would just tingle really irritatingly. And at the same time, it was just such like a rite of passage for me to have these things on my face. I remember at one point in college that year I had like 2 black eyes and like a cut right here, a really big one, and it was just like, this was me now, because previously I'd been this kind of like, you know, wallflower who never did anything crazy. I'd never done any kind of contact sports before, but yet here I was sporting black eyes and training, you know, walking into college limping with like, you know, cuts on my face and stuff like that. I was a fighter. That was who I was. And really I was super happy. I really loved that. Like, I was living the lifestyle of an athlete. I was studying super hard at college just to maintain my grades and stuff like that. I was coming home, doing the bare minimum to keep my diet in check, and then running off to training and doing that obsessively, like without you know, thought of what I was doing to my body, the injuries that I was collecting or anything like that. It wasn't running me down because I was so full of passion for it. It was so amazing to me that I could do this and I was excelling at it. I was having a lot of fun and seeing a lot of progress while I was doing this. I was getting better at fighting and stuff like that. And I was just in love with the rigor of training super hard and pushing my body to the breaking point on a nightly basis. That all kind of ground to a halt at the end of my second semester when my grandfather decided that he didn't want to have me in the house anymore. The main reason for this was, I suppose, he was kind of old and set in his ways, and it was really, really difficult for him to accept another person in the house. He thought that I spent too much time up late at night, burning electricity and whatnot. He was really annoyed about that, even though I helped to pay the electricity bill. And so that kind of, escalated tensions a little bit. Also, he found that I was too quiet, and he wanted me to make a bit of noise going around so I wouldn't scare him if I popped up. But it's really hard to just deliberately make a lot of noise when you're walking around someone's house, if you've ever tried that. Essentially, he would want me to bang my feet on the floor, or maybe knock on the wall or something like that, so he would know I was coming, just so if I appeared, it wouldn't give him a heart attack or anything like that. But I don't know, it's kind of hard to remember to do all that sort of stuff, so I never really did, and that kind of annoyed him. It annoyed him as well if I didn't clean up my pots after cooking straight away, but I always did that. It just wasn't as fast as he would have liked sometimes. Bottom line, things kind of came to a head at one point, and I had to call my dad, and then my dad came up from my hometown, and they had this massive argument, which was really kind of petty in a lot of ways. I really saw my dad having the argument with his father that he was supposed to have had when he was my age, but instead he'd saved up all this pent-up frustration at his father for so many years, and he took it out on him then, at that time of life when he was older and my granddad was really old and quite frail. And it just made everything so bad that I had to move out at the end of the day. I just had to move out. So I spent about a week looking for a new apartment, and I found one. I moved in with a Chinese couple, a couple of blocks away, so I was still in the same town. I could still go to the same gym, but I was living with this Chinese couple who were really, really cool, except for the fact that their stove was totally broken, and they refused to use heating at all. That, and they kind of screwed me on the deposit. They didn't give me all my money back because they were like, oh, we didn't know how much electricity you used, so yeah. Anyway, so we broke for the Christmas holidays. My college annoyingly had Christmas holidays that were super short, and then really early in January, when public transport wasn't even fully running again, they made us come back for Christmas exams. So before I came back, I reached out to this Chinese couple and said, hey, I need a place to stay again, and you did say that I could stay with you, essentially. And they never responded to me, so I became temporarily without a place to live while I was trying to sit my Christmas exams. I wound up having to defer them. That is, I postponed them until the summer when I could sit them again, but it was super annoying, and that's when it really started to slide for me, when I really fell out of love with college, because I felt like I was putting so much effort in, I was training super hard, but I was also trying to make college work as best I could, even though it was quite frustrating to me. And my trouble, my granddad, and being forced to leave the accommodation there, and now my fresh trouble with these Chinese people who were really nice at first but then just stopped communicating with me, really just compounded the kind of anxiety and stress that I was feeling with college in general. And that's when I began to disengage, and it really only got worse when I moved to the new house, the third house that I lived in second year. So I found this house slightly further away from the gym, but roughly the same distance from college, public transport wise, and rent was expensive, but that wasn't that bad. The really bad part was the cold. It was super cold in that house. Again, the landlady would not turn on the heating at all. But the thing was that I was even further away from college. Essentially, I was further away from college, and it took me I was a mile and a half from the gym, and I had to walk to the gym every night. And so it was like a 3-mile walk plus a 2-hour training session. I was really getting beaten up by this. It was really grinding me down physically. And the combination of that and sort of I suppose at that point my sort of enthusiasm for MMA sort of started to decline a little bit, because I wasn't seeing the major progress that I was seeing at first when I first started, and injuries were accumulating. I was feeling run down because I wasn't eating properly really, and the really long walks to and from the gym were kind of killing me as well. But I was still going. I was still throwing myself into it because I didn't really want to quit at all. There's no quit in me really when it comes to that kind of stuff, but it wasn't good for me because I was super isolated. I wasn't talking to anybody from college. My life was essentially go to the gym, eat some basic foods that will, repair your body from intense training, but not really really fill you up or comfort you. It wasn't comfort food really. And I wasn't communicating with anybody from college or from home, and I was just sort of doing that over and over again, and it was slowly killing me. I felt super isolated and super depressed. At that point, I did really start, I stopped going to college. I remember I spent so many mornings just lying awake in bed thinking, how can I kill myself without putting people out? And if that comes out of nowhere, it kind of did for me. I really slid into that super fast because I didn't realize how much I was isolating myself, or how badly I was, like, you know, cutting myself off from the rest of the world, and how badly my diet and the training was affecting my mental health, because I was in super physical shape. I was in amazing shape. I could run for miles and miles without training to run for miles and miles. I could do 12 rounds of sparring plus conditioning circuits plus, you know, regular boxing drills and stuff like that, just over and over again for hours. And I felt really great doing that, but when it ended and I had to, like, retreat home to that place that I was staying, it was just so deadening, and I just felt like I was really achieving nothing and kind of going nowhere, and the isolation, if I haven't said that 20 times already, was kind of starting to get to me. Plus, for the longest time at that house, I actually had no Wi-Fi as well. The woman wouldn't pay for Wi-Fi, and we couldn't get, like, cheap Wi-Fi because the house was just in a very particular area, and lots of companies just couldn't get access there, like decent connection speed to that particular house. So I was further isolated from the rest of the world. It was at that point that I really realized that, like, there was nobody putting any kind of pressure on me to go to college at all. Like, if I was gonna go, I was gonna go. If I wasn't gonna go, nobody was gonna knock on my door and tell me, hey, Luke, you know, get your stuff together. You have to be doing this. You know, you're paying for this course after all. You should be attending. But rather than that scaring me, it filled me with a sense of apathy. You know, I just stopped caring about stuff in general. I remember at one point when I was actually still living in the first semester with my grandmother and my grandfather, she was like, my grandmother was like, are you okay, Luke? You know, you happy? And I was like, okay, you know, she's an old lady. I can just pull the wool over her eyes. I can just lie to her here. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. You know, I'm just a generally melancholic person or whatever. And she was like, no, you're not happy, are you? And I was genuinely shocked that she could really see it, because I thought I was doing a good job at hiding it. But I made a huge mistake at this point in college, and I really want you, if you're watching this and you're about to go into college yourself, to not make the same mistake. Don't isolate yourself. Don't do what I did. Like, you can still pursue something like I did, like with MMA, with, like, you know, super intensity and great passion, great energy, but don't isolate yourself. Don't separate yourself from the herd. Definitely try to make friends. Definitely try to spend as much time as you can with your new friends, because they're not going to wait for you, you know what I'm saying? They're going to form their own little groups. They're going to get involved doing stuff that's separate from you in your life, and if you don't join them, you will start to feel like you're being left behind. That's definitely one of my bigger regrets with college, just in general, not like engaging with college itself on a more personal level, just sort of like engaging with the course, but not actually the people in the course, who it turns out were pretty cool overall. But that was essentially my second year. I did nothing other than mixed martial arts and lying in bed wishing that I was dead. It was a really low point in my life, actually. And if I could go back in time to myself back then, I would first say, Luke, you need to eat some ice cream or chocolate or something with sugar in it because you're dying. And also, hang out with your friends a little more because they're worried about you. Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's the video. This is probably incredibly long too, so kudos to you for sitting through it all and staring at my awful face. I know, it's not hard to look at. No, wait, no, not easy to look at, sorry. Words, difficult. I got punched in the face a lot in second year, you can probably tell. Anyway, yeah, that's the video. Hope you had a reasonably good time. Some thoughts. If you want to comment, please do so down below. I will never bite. Please feel free to share your own experiences. Follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Duketastic. Otherwise, just, you know, take care. Actually, watch this video of me and my girlfriend making DIY Coke floats for our 9th month anniversary. 9th month, monthsary? Monthsary? Is that a word? Take care.